Hey you guys, Unexceptional Rounder here, and playing some live 25 NL on two tables today. Got a request a while ago, actually just a couple days ago, just to talk a little bit about multi-tabling and sort of what my stance on multi-tabling is and the pros and cons of playing more or less tables. So I decided to fire up two tables and talk about it a little bit, and I got some hands going in the background so we can talk about those if they come up. First of all, I'll say that if you're moving up in stakes, I think limiting the number of tables you play is a great idea. So I've pretty much played 4 tables when I've played live, when I've done live streams or when I've done live videos, and that works really well for me when I'm playing by myself and focusing. I do okay with that. I will say though that even when I have 4 tables going, one of my weaknesses is I definitely don't see everything going on. I don't see all the all the hands, all the plays that other players are making, and I miss things. So, it works for me. Nothing goes terribly wrong usually. But for example, like live streaming, and got the open-ended straight, which is a fair amount of value, and I don't really want this guy to raise me off of it, so I'll check back here. I have made some mistakes, live streaming, things like that, and I'll check back here. The king high could be good sometimes. I don't see a ton of value in betting, and yeah, I'll just let this one go. Yeah, I mean, I live streaming a few times, I've missed things or messed up hands, things like that, because you just get distracted. So the more you have going on, the more distracted you can get, and the less you might notice. I think when people use a HUD, a heads-up display, telling you the other player's stats, they sort of get into this, and I mean literally kind of grew up on online poker using a HUD. And it's probably one of my biggest weaknesses is that I have a tendency to not really pay attention to what players are doing, and just sort of, even though I don't have stats now, just sort of rely on the fact that, I'll be able to look up, and when I get into a hand with this guy, I'll be able to see what his stats are. Well, the stats don't tell the whole story. And, like right now, we should be able to kind of recite what the action is going on at this table. So, we've got this guy in position 4 betting, and he's out of position, and we got the player at seat 1 calling. So I mean, that's all kind of interesting. So this guy, we saw him betting 3 streets and then bluffing the river with an open-ended straight, and this guy calling down with second pair. I mean, that's all really good information to have. And I missed the action over on this other table, but it looks like there was some good information to be had over there. So what does that tell you? If the fact that this guy, bets out of position with his draws, no HUD stat is really going to tell you that. Yeah, maybe like, if you got the new Hold'em manager and you go and dig through, you can find some sort of stuff, and you combine it with some other programs that take automatic notes and all. Like I've used it all. It's good stuff, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. And you can only get the whole story if you're truly observant and you pay attention to people. And even if you're not moving up in levels, it probably is beneficial once in a while to just sit down with 1 table or 2 tables pulled up and really pay attention to what's going on around you, what the other players are doing, how people are acting, because you definitely can pick up reads and stuff on the hands you play. And this gut shot doesn't have a lot of value, so we'll just go ahead and bet this out on the left table. It's also hard for him to call without face cards. We get a pair of 7s to go away here, and that's a better hand than ours. So, you benefit a lot from playing fewer tables, and especially just doing it once in a while. Here, I normally wouldn't open this under the gun, but this player's sitting out, so we're actually we're in the under the gun +1, really. It's still kind of a weak open. We could fold it. In general, play looser. If you want to play more hands, play them on the button and the cutoff. That's fine. But in here, I'll just make my half pot continuation bet. We don't really have a lot of value, so we don't mind getting raised off of it, and we can pretty much go away here. But if you want to open up, do it in late position. Don't open up your weaker hands early. If you want to play more hands, just open up your really weak hands in late position. You'll probably lose less money with those. It's hard. It's hard for me to really talk and look at two tables. If I've got something going on this table, it's going to be very easy for me to miss something on the table, connected to it. So if you're just trying to get the hang of things, I highly recommend just playing one table. You'll learn much faster that way, and you'll probably make a little bit more. Your win rate should be higher playing one table versus playing two. So if you don't know if you can beat a level, play 1,000 hands, 2,000 hands, 10,000 hands at one table. Yeah, I understand it's going to take a while, but that will tell you whether or not you can beat the level. If you start off playing 4 tables, and you might get through 10,000 hands a little quicker. Maybe you get through them in a month or half a month, however often you play. But you may not get a good idea of whether or not you can beat the level, or maybe it's the number of tables you're playing that's holding you back. And that's probably something I've actually struggled with a little bit, because I do. It's not that I get bored, but I sort of immediately think that if I play more tables, I will have a higher win rate. An example of that is I used to play sit and goes, back when I was in high school. And I remember when I first got I can't remember if it was a second monitor. I think I had a laptop, and I got a monitor that I could attach to it. And I'd been playing 4 sit and goes at a time, and I'd been winning. I'd been doing all right. Not great, but I thought that, well, now that I've got this other monitor, I can fire up 9 at a time. So I fired up 9 at a time, and it didn't go quite as well as I thought it would. I ended up doing pretty poorly. So I thought that it would be great, and it wasn't. One thing I forgot to mention when this video started, I should mention it. Might be too late. I'll have to put an annotation at the beginning also, but in the bottom of the screen is going to be a couple annotations that will, if you just want to watch the action hands, so to speak, then I will put some annotations so that you can actually just click through my ramblings in between the hands if you just want to see, the interesting hands, or at least the hands that go to the flop. Otherwise, you can either, close them out or just ignore them. But I will put some annotations so that you can actually rewatch the last hand I played in case you missed it, and also just skip to the next hand. If you don't want to see sort of the boring in between parts, I have no problem with that. If you do want to stick around for the ramblings, I'll try to give you what information I know or I've learned in my time playing about multi-tabling. So, one thing that I would say is that when I move up to 50 NL, I will make a few videos just one tabling. And same thing. I'll put some annotations down there so that you can skip through and see the action. But I think it'll be good to just go through the sort of disciplined practice of playing one table and showing that the types of things you can observe, even in a couple of the videos I've put out. I know in the in the hand quiz video, quick hand 1 and 2. They're sort of combo videos. I talk about how that read that I got off of the guy made me play a hand differently, and I ended up winning a pretty, I won a full buy-in off the guy because I paid attention. And the only reason that I had paid attention was because I was in the hand. If that hand had happened with him and another guy, I probably wouldn't have noticed it because I wasn't really paying that much attention. So you really have to, if you're playing 4 tables, like that's all you should be doing, and you should be very, very focused on the action on all the tables. Because when I've been live streaming, a lot of times somebody will say something like, "Oh, hey, this guy on table 2, seat 4, like you've been letting him limp a lot," or that guy's been re-raised. He's re-raised you 3 times now when you're in late position, or this has happened, or that has happened, and I'm like, "Oh, really? All right, cool, thanks. Like I'll pay attention to that now." That's stuff that I need to be noticing when I play, and I have a tendency to get distracted, when I'm talking, and one thing that I will do is I will do some, like, I've already done a few, but I'll do sweat sessions where I don't, I sit and I play and I'll record it, and then I will talk through the decision making after the fact. Excuse me. And that gets a little bit of a more realistic view of how I actually would play normally. Talking through the decisions helps for the individual hands, but like right now, instead of talking, I could be trying to figure out what the guy on the right table in seat 6 is calling behind with to the under the gun open. We'll try to see if we can figure it out here now that I mentioned it. But there's a lot going on in this hand, and it's probably a good hand to pick stuff up on. Now, the only excuse I do try to use, and it's not a good one, is that because it's Bodog, my notes don't last, and I can't keep track of where these guys go, and the reads are only good for that session. But I mean, that's a pretty bad excuse. I mean, let's face it, if you get one decent read off of guy that makes you even a few big blinds, then it's worth paying attention, because a few big blind, or a few big bets, big blinds, whatever, that's the difference between a winning and a losing player. I think that really the more disciplined you can be about your bankroll and about the number of tables you're playing and the notes you take, the faster you're going to learn. You might be able to beat 1 cent, 2 cent, and 20 table it just by playing nothing but aces, kings, and queens. I don't know if you can do that or not, but probably. I mean, it doesn't sound too unreasonable. Just playing like ace, king, aces, kings, and queens. You could probably just play those hands and at least grind out some sort of win rate. But you're not going to get a whole lot better at playing poker. It's the same thing with playing full ring and 10 tabling. Like, yeah, you might be able to do it at the level you're at, but are you really going to get that much better? Are you going to move up? And one thing that I'll say probably made me improve more than anything else was just playing one table of heads-up poker, because it forced me to do nothing but pay attention to the one guy. And even then, sometimes, it would be, I wouldn't always pick up on the patterns, because I wouldn't always be looking for them, or I wouldn't be attentive enough to pick up on some of the subtle things people were doing. So, that's definitely something that I'll be working on, and maybe I'll be able to sort of do some sweat sessions. See, like, what happened here. This is looks like it was probably pretty standard, but I didn't actually see the action on the right table. Okay, so it looks like it was just a huge river raise. That's kind of interesting. Right there, I mean, that's interesting in and of itself. The player under the gun had 2s, and he just limped. All right, so he limped his 2s, ended up hitting a set, Okay, no, he raised his twos. Look again. I'll pull this in. Actually, you know what? I'll just put an annotation. You can rewatch the hand. But let me see if I can see what happened so I can talk about it. Yeah, so he limped, and then under the gun +2 raised, which I believe is the cutoff. And then he flat called, hit his flop. He min raised the flop. So right there, that's pretty clutch. Okay, he hit a set and then min raised, and then checked. I see, that's real bad. So he didn't play his set very well. He min raised, and then he tried to check again after raising the flop. I mean, you can't, like, I guess he went for, the check raise. And then what's even worse is the guy ended up, calling. Oh no, the guy with the ace jack shoves all in. I mean, it's all pretty ugly. Here, this is an under the gun raise. I'll call on the small blind. I've got pretty good odds, but I'm not going to stack off if I hit top pair. And I'm just going to pretty much go away on this flop. I had pretty good odds on that, and I was really just calling to hit an interesting flop where I might be able to raise or bluff. And I maybe could have made a move there, but again, out of position, not necessary. And I could also fold the king-queen on the left table there. There's no, definitely wouldn't be a bad play to fold. Oops. Stay at tables. Yeah. Don't want to close out the client. All right, so let's try to watch some hands. Try to practice, watching what other people are doing. No. Okay, this probably isn't that interesting. Not really sure. I mean, So, definitely worth, worth noting there that the guy he's gone now, so I'll never see that note. But the fact that he overcalled with King 5 suited is pretty terrible. Definitely, something to note. And here, I do have a flush draw, but it's a pretty bad one. And I can get him to fold here a lot. And I'd rather actually get him to fold on the flop than have him fold after I hit my flush. Here, I'm going to make just a small, so it's a standard out of position raise, but maybe the small blind will come all in over the top or something. Or if this guy calls, then I can play in position after raising, which is great too. These guys are both deep, and I've got a decent suited king. And here I'll check. I'll call a bet, and then that's a pretty bad card, but let's go ahead and we'll just go ahead and make a pot size bet, and if we get raised or anything, we can go away, but some worse hands can call. A queen or a jack will probably still call us here. And when the ace falls, we can actually still potentially get a little bit of value out of like a queen or a jack. And if we get raised, we can just go away. So I'd say he probably has the 10. Most people don't make the all-in bluff when it's very easy for me to have the 10 also. And we'll raise the 7-8 suited on the button. That's an easy raise. Fold the jack 3. Another thing that I think I will do is I know they're out there. It's easy enough if you want to look it up, but put together sort of a I'll put together a starting hand chart, and I'll post on my website. Easy bet fold, and just an easy half bet fold on the 7-8. You know, I know there's a bunch out there, but it'd be good to have one that you know, I'll put it out there, and then any feedback, we can kind of develop one as a sort of as a little bit of a community here, and put together kind of some guidelines, and then we can talk about the situations where we change what we're doing. I just picked up a little bit of showdown value, so I can check back now on the 7-8, and he does have some draws. He's got a ton of jacks here. I expect to, once we check back the turn, we can't really bet the river and expect him to fold a jack. Again, we'd probably have to overbet. Even then, I don't know if he does. So I expect to see a jack here and be beat a lot. And because of that, we maybe should reconsider our check back on the turn. He actually just gives up with the king-queen. That's fine. So kind of surprised that he called with the gut shot and then never made. Okay, I shouldn't say I'm too surprised, but that's like something worth noting. Again, you know, it's cool that we're making the note, but it's only because it happened to us and we know the action of the hand. But yeah, it's worth noting that he, you know, let's just say called with gut shot on flop and never just checked down. So there probably wasn't too much more value we could have gotten out of there either. But it is worth taking that note because there's two ways to win money, right? I think it's been mentioned before. You either have the best hand or you make the other person fold. You cannot profitably call on the flop with a gut shot with no intentions of ever taking it away. So, you know, he was out of position. He called, and then I checked the turn. He should be either betting the turn himself or raising at some point or doing something to try and take that pot away at least sometimes. Like maybe he doesn't have to do it all the time. So it doesn't indicate that he's, you know, terrible or anything at this point. But keep in mind when you call with a draw, some percentage of the time you've got to be willing to try and make a move on that pot, right? Like at some point, some percentage of the time, you've got to be making a move, or else it's really unprofitable to be calling ever. And so if you are in a spot where you don't feel like you're ever going to be comfortable making a move, and if you guys watched my video on bluffing, you probably know that, you know, out of position isn't when I prefer making my moves, then maybe you should let that one go. And again, if you could be like, well, you know, if he's going to float out of position, that's okay. It's challenging, but if he's up for it, then that's fine. But once I check the turn, and you're floating out of position, it's time to go for it. It's time to make a stab at the pot. Don't do, you know, some sort of complex call the gut shot, float out of position, and then just give up on it. That's the wrong answer. And also, I do feel like it's a little bit, again, the thing is I use Bodog as an excuse sometimes because the notes go away and it is a little tough with no player names. Like, I understand, yeah, they're all in the same seat until they leave, but when you just see the backs of cards most of the time, and no player names, no avatars. I mean, at least I wish they at least had some avatars so I would, be able to recognize what's happening or what somebody's doing other than just a number. The Queen 10 is a little loose, but I've mentioned before, if guys are gonna limp, I mean, look at that. That's a great pot to win. That had four big blinds in it, 2 big bets. If we do that once every 100 hands, we're like adding a third or something to our win rate, maybe doubling it, depending on what our win rate is. Here, out of position with the short stacks, I mean, I'm getting almost 10 to 1 to limp in here with 7s. I can't give that up. Boom. It's a pretty good spot, but where every single player limped, most players don't limp 9s. It's kind of hard to bet here out of position, but and now I've kind of given up the opportunity. I think I should have thought about that for a second longer with the 7s. The only other pocket pair that beats me here is 9s, and it's definitely possible, but I mean, people don't get 9s that often. And now I've kind of sort of sacrificed the pot when the queen drops here and I don't bet. I'm out of position. I only have to call one more street. Yeah, I will call one more. We'll see what happens. And I'll check fold here with the jack's another pretty bad card. But if he doesn't have anything, he might take a bluff at it. But certainly looks like he's asking for a call. But given the 4-to-1 odds, I only have to be right about 20% of the time. So if he's doing this, if he's ever sort of just trying to poke at it and make a move, then it's okay. I don't know if he's doing it a fifth of the time, probably not, but now we know. And, looking at that hand, it's clearly a hand that we really want to be betting the flop. I guess my initial reaction was just to check and see what happens, but really, if that checks around, we're giving up on the hand a lot of times, just like what happened. So, oh well. Here, the 8-king suited, I mean, dead money in the pot, so we'll raise it up. The number 1 seat on the left table actually made a raise. Queen 10 doesn't really play that great. Even in position against short stacks, it's not going to play that well. And here, I don't mind getting it in with this guy. I'm going to bet a little bit smaller just to leave a little bit of room. I don't really know why I did that, though. I mean, realistically, he's either going to shove or he's not. It doesn't matter. And if anything, I should bet more to discourage him shoving since, I don't have a made hand. Yeah. Second thought, yeah, raising more on that flop would be better. And this guy min raises again. That's fine. We'll go after that, but we need sort of a good high card hand to go after him with. We don't. I mean, Queen 7's not really the hand to get all in with, even for $4.37. I'm gonna try to keep this video to right around 30 minutes, so I'm gonna call it a video. If you guys have any questions about multi-tabling or anything about sort of win rates and number of tables you're playing, I have done a little bit of work with it, so feel free to ask, and then I will do one more video like this, so stay Stay tuned for the outro, and I hope you guys enjoy it. This is an exceptional rounder. You guys keep on grinding.